Hello, church. I'm Hadley, and I just want to say that it is an honor to be here speaking tonight. It's been my dream since the service started. I think I went to the second one ever running after my dad came excitedly to me being like, you gotta come. You're probably confused why a 16-year-old girl is standing up speaking to a room full of wisdom-filled members who have been here for years. But I hope that I can offer you some insight from a youth and a blessing that has been given to me to allow Lord into my heart from such a young age. I'm sure a lot of you know me here since I've successfully never missed a Wednesday night service, with the exception of Halloween 2019, since it began. Ever since the start of the service, I have been begging Gary to come up here and speak. That being said, I did last second write this, but this place is like a home to me, and I consider each and every one of you family. Starting from the pastors, Brandy, Greg, Gary, Heather, Katie, Kenny, Mike, and those of you who are faithful to coming each and every Wednesday hold a very, very special place in my heart, one that can never be replaced. Anyway, today I was called in the Spirit of the Lord to get up here and speak to declare my faith and love for the Lord. In order to do that, I would love to get vulnerable and close with those of you who may know me well and those of you who have never seen my face before. Ever since I could remember, my parents have been divorced. This has been an aspect in my life, even though it is always, this is an aspect of my life that even though it has always been there, it never concerned me to a profound level. Living in this town where it seems to be that every family has the most perfect life, perfect kids, made it seem like it was almost a defect that was part of my identity. In elementary school, I had kids say to me that I was like a bad kid because my parents weren't married. Some kids stopped being friends with me as well, and honestly I didn't really care because why would I want to be friends with someone who judged me on something that was out of my control? Whenever being asked about my parents' divorce, I answered with it doesn't bother me, or they've always been that way, I'm used to it. And even though I'm speaking of this in a past tense, this is still how I respond as the young woman I am today, for I don't let it define who I am. What most people forget to mention when discussing their parents being divorced is what it's like to watch a human being, especially when it's your parents, suffer and grieve. Yes, I was coming from a broken family, but I also had to watch my own parents break to their lows and see them as individual people. After seeing this from such a young age, I was able to recognize that life is not perfect, and that my parents are not perfect, and my life was going to be a lot different than those around me. At this time, I was attending church on normal days like Christmas, Easter, and occasional Sundays, where my dad would have my sister Harper and I dress up and go to Sunday school. It wasn't until around 2018, when my dad was living homeless, only checking in with Harper and I a couple times a week, and my brother was in recovery from his alcohol addiction, where my dad slowly started to get back up on his feet again and was attending church meetings that my sister and I were not aware of. During Sunday school, I was in 5th grade, and my group leader, Shauna Turner, every Sunday during our group, at the end of the day, we would get these mini prayer cards, and she would tell us to write one thing that we would pray about. And in my life, I was so young at the time, I didn't really have many issues, but surrounding me, it felt like all these people I loved were going through so much pain. And so each week, I would just write things like, without even thinking twice, every week I would write a prayer for my brother and my dad. And I would say things like, please grant my father peace, please put a roof over his head, please help my brother overcome this, God. I miss the old hymn, save him from addiction. I didn't really think much of it and care about the significance of it because at the time I didn't understand the power of prayer. But it wasn't until the very last session of Sunday school, right before summer, where Shauna handed me a stack of all the prayers that I'd written that year. She told me that she had prayed for each and every prayer, and whenever she had the chance, and that God loved me. This was a turning point for me in my faith because it made me realize that my prayers were actually being answered. Though Shauna wasn't Jesus herself, I truly believe that she was sent for me to understand and start my faith journey. At the same time, the Wednesday night services were starting up, and Gary had just become the youth pastor. I was in 6th grade now, and I started to attend the Wednesday night services. My friend life was a little rough, and money was tight in my family. I was living in a 1-bedroom apartment above Post Corner Pizza with my mom and my sister, while my sister and I shared a room, and my mom was sleeping on the couch. It wasn't a big deal to me because I was very proud of my mom and how far she had come. and extremely grateful that I was able to even have a home. At the time, at school, a lot of kids would make fun of me for this, and girl friendships were getting really messy, and I was decently bullied. I found myself in a life of inconsistency. Nothing ever stuck, whether it was family, friends, things kept falling apart. And I would come to church each and every week, and actually the first message that stuck with me, I think it was around November 2019, was a message of forgiveness. I learned how to forgive those who hurt me and understand how to grow from them. I would forgive girls in my grade who were mean to me, forgive my parents and what they were going through and the people who had done them wrong, my brother. This was an extremely useful thing at the age of an 11-year-old girl who could not take the pettiness anymore. It helped me to understand God's abundant love for me and His consistent comfort that He brought me. Throughout my years of middle school, there were many ups and downs. 7th grade, I had a solid friend group where I was practically glued in with these girls for life. I loved them more than anything and gave the friend group my all. In 8th grade, my family life was starting to get bad again, and I found myself in and out of my house and feeling a loss of home. My friendships were becoming heavily unstable, and I found myself constantly searching for insignificant things that I thought would bring me happiness and satisfaction, but really just dug me into a deeper hole. I did not understand why everyone thought one way, or why I thought one way and everyone else thought another. I really started to hate everyone else until I realized I just hated myself. I was a slave to sin, and it buried me into a deep depression, where I felt lots of unfulfillment and dissatisfaction in my life. When coming from this background of unstable family and what seemed to be now friends, God was the only person there for me. Accepting Him in my life, He became my rock, my foundation. The verse I chose for this evening uses this word of foundation, and I'm going to read for you today. It's in your bulletin. 1 Corinthians, verse 3, 11 through 15. For no one can lay a foundation other than which is laid, which is Jesus Christ. Now if anyone builds on the foundation with gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, straw, each one's work will become manifest, for the day will disclose it, because it will be revealed by fire, and the fire will test what sort of work each one has done. If the work that anyone has built on the foundation survives, he will receive a reward. If anyone's work is burned up, he will suffer loss, though he himself will be saved, but only as through fire. I chose this verse because in my life, God has been my foundation, my rock, my center. I took the metaphor of gold, silver, precious stones. No, in your life, you focus on materialistic items and you build things and you fill your life with things that you think will bring you happiness and satisfaction. And a lot of the time, I feel like people look to me and thought, oh, she's got everything she wants. Like, she's fine, she's happy, like, stereotypical, but, like, and I just really felt empty. Like, there was something missing. I really didn't feel like myself. I felt like I had lost a spark in me. And even through the bad times, even through the good times, God is there. That concrete, that's there through the fire. So in 2022, I felt the most alone I'd ever felt in my life. I'd lost all my friends, and I was disconnected from my family, and our community had just suffered from 3 huge losses of suicide. 2 of them being students. This made things very, very real for me. I felt like everything around me was now falling apart, and not only in my head. People were acting on things, and I wasn't sure how to help or how to make it stop. I found myself constantly searching for reasons why things were happening to me or to the people around me. Up until this point in my life, I felt like I was able to overcome anything and everything that was thrown in my path. But now I found that my days were cycling and creating an empty void inside me, where all I wanted to do was go to sleep and never wake up again. All I could think about was why. Why did God put me in such a hard position in my life? I found myself hating and craving the escape of it. I wanted the pain to stop, and I was truly giving up. March 2022, Aurora Presbyterian Church sent me to the winter weekend retreat. This was the first time I experienced a spiritual high, and was truly felt God's presence. It was not until the last night of the retreat where I'd spent countless amount of time in people's arms just break down crying that I realized that I just was not okay. A story I wanted to take notice to that stuck with me from that weekend was told by Heather about a man and Jesus walking on a beach. It was about a man and Jesus who were walking on a beach with two pairs of footsteps side by side. The second pair of footsteps was always by the man, except through his hardest times. The man asked Jesus, "Where were you when I needed you? Why did you leave me?" Because the footsteps disappeared. "I did not leave you. My footsteps replaced yours because I was carrying you," replied Jesus. This truly showed me the love Jesus had for me and for all of us, and I now knew that I wanted to make him the center of my life. And meanwhile, during this, every Wednesday night, no matter where I am in my life, I'm attending. In May 2022, I still felt a void within me. I texted Gary and Heather to meet, and I ended up walking from Middlesex Middle School to NPC that day. It was the same day as one of the funerals for one of the students that we recently lost in our community. As I walked into the sanctuary, I saw the young boy's picture up on the wall. I sat there in the front pew for what felt like an eternity, analyzing the picture before me. The people surrounding me started to disperse, and it occurred to me that this human life, this soul, was nothing but a memory now. He was no longer able to grow, to feel, to love. In many ways, I felt really related to this particular student. In my life, I felt like I was already dead. I felt as though signs that God was putting in my life were leading me in this direction of, this is my way to go. And I knew that God had a plan for me and loved me, but when arriving in Gary's office, I asked him if God had planned for me to take my own life. I told him how I did not want that to be the answer, but I felt hopeless and like it was my only option. Gary then pulled out a sheet of paper and drew a black circle on it. He said to me, "Hats, what do you see?" This is the paper that he drew. He said, "Hats, what do you see?" I looked for a minute and answered simply with a hole. Gary responded with, "You're seeing this hole, darkness, but Hats, you're missing the white paper all around it." I realized that this darkness in my life was consuming me, and I really was missing the blessings around me that Jesus had brought me. Following this meeting, Gary and Heather would text me words of encouragement and verses when I needed it most. I prayed that I would survive this time of my life, though I never thought I would ever make it to 15. My heart hurt, and I did not know how long it would take for me to finally feel at peace again. After this time in my life, I slowly started getting back onto my feet through therapy, medication, church, and I became an advocate for those who struggled with what I had felt. The anger, suffering, and resentment that I had for myself, for God, became lifted off my chest. Stephen Shelton mentioned recently an idea that I liked of falling upward. Church, I truly felt like I had hit rock bottom, and I was only 14. I realized that in order to endure and live out Jesus' teachings, I had to embrace and love my faults and sufferings. I learned that adversity is opportunity, and that God is infinite, and we as humans are only finite. The only constant thing throughout my life is the Lord. Through ups and downs, through brokenness and pain, He is there. And what I love most about this service in particular is the fact that we all come from different ages, different backgrounds, yet we all find peace in our own brokenness. I've seen tons of different types of people here, and I mean, the amount of openness here and the lack of judgment is amazing. It's a blessing. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else on earth but here, church. I mean it when I say that this is a home to me, and that God is a foundation in my life. I'm so lucky to have a church as great as NPC, and I'm proud to stand here and say that I did in fact make it to 15 successfully and 16 now, and I owe it all to God. Church, I ask that you please make the commitment to making God the center of your life. He truly has changed it for me, and I could not still be here without my faith. I love each and every single one of you here, and thank you for letting me share.
think I can speak for everybody in here tonight when I say that you truly, truly blessed us. And God is working through you so powerfully. So we're gonna pray over you now. And friends, I would love to invite you all to come up and lay hands on Hadley. We're gonna pray over her too.